Hello, and thanks for the opportunity once again to present key findings and the implications we see for broadband service providers from our recent analysis of broadband data usage. The fourth quarter of 2021 saw the workplace settle into what experts predict will be the new work pattern going forward. In a recent Barron's article, surveys and interviews point to how the foreseeable workplace will be. 50% of the workforce will be in person. This is made up of frontline workers such as those in healthcare, manufacturing, and retail. 40% will be a hybrid workplace, calling for, on average, 3 days a week in the office for heavy team and interpersonal interaction, mostly on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And the remaining 10% will be all remote, made up of skilled service workers such as IT support, finance, and payroll. The impact of how we live and how we connect online will continue to be substantial. With about half of the workforce, as we just saw, working part or full-time remotely, workers are leaving the cities and finding more spacious and affordable suburban living. And with a good portion completely remote, rural communities are seeing an influx of residents. The need for broadband across all geographies has never been more vital. Now, with more connected devices in the home than ever before, as well as the need for work from home, learning from home, streaming, and gaming, 2021 finished the year passing a significant usage milestone. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. Indeed, we've seen the ongoing outcome from the linkage between significant growth in broadband consumption and faster speed adoption. This continues to have significant bearing on network planning for network operators such as you, with important revenue and customer experience implications. Fortunately, network growth and planning benefits from a data-driven approach, which also delivers significant revenue opportunities, which we'll talk about. And even more fortunately, there are solutions available, such as the kind that OpenVault provides, that enables broadband providers to identify and proactively improve network performance and approach subscribers with an upgrade package that will improve their user experience while also improving ARPU. During this discussion, you'll hear about both the insights we've had and the solutions that help broadband providers. Hi, I'm Larry Siegel. I'll be serving as your host on today's webinar. I'm going to talk a bit about our role in developing this report and then turn it over to our CEO and founder, Mark Trudeau, who'll take us on a deep dive into the key findings and their implications for broadband operators, especially on how they can take the same views we have on usage data and leverage that for improving subscriber satisfaction while increasing revenue with their own networks. The information we're going to be providing is a preview to you. The actual report will be released shortly. And this presentation itself will be posted as a video, and you'll be able to go back and watch later and share it with your friends and colleagues. As we go through our findings, if you have any questions, please submit your questions here on Zoom. If we don't respond during the session, we'll certainly follow up with you. OpenVault is the only cloud-based solutions provider exclusively focused on improving the value of broadband providers' networks with quick-to-deploy business-enhancing tools built upon our unique ability to capture and analyze actual network and subscriber usage data in real time. With our deep domain knowledge, we perform data analytics on billions of usage and network data points so that our solutions enable providers to improve network performance, discover new and improve existing revenue streams, and enhance subscriber satisfaction. We've done this for over 10 years for broadband providers in North America, Latin America, and Europe. Keep your eyes on the left where it says billions of usage data records. As I mentioned, our tools gather that data generated by our 150 plus broadband provider customers in North America, Latin America, and Europe. And once within our platform, we create a holistic pool of data across millions of subscriber data usage records into which we execute a series of powerful analytic queries ranging from overall usage, tiered usage, plan migrations, geographic characteristics, and more. These then yield insights which have implications for you, broadband providers. We then share these insights for their implications in our quarterly OpenVault Broadband Insights Report Advisories, or OVBIs. And that's a little preview of what the cover is going to look like when this is released shortly. So here's a little preview of the key findings that Mark is going to do a deep dive into, plus some other information. During the last quarter, usage growth continues as a result of continued demand. Flat rate billing usage growth is triple that of median usage growth is triple that of usage-based billing. Power users and gigabyte speed tier users are rapidly accelerating, and the accelerated broadband usage and speed demands will continue to impact broadband providers, and we'll have some examples of that and what you can do about it. Now, just to get you involved in this, we'd like to start with our first poll. Based on this clear trend toward higher usage and the growth of higher speed plans and the implications they bring, how concerned are you about your network's ability to deliver high quality of experience for your customers? Please jump in, give an answer. Are you not at all concerned? Not very concerned? Somewhat concerned? Or are you very concerned? How concerned are you about your network's ability to deliver high quality of experience to your subscribers? What have we learned? We've learned that there's an even balance of not very concerned to somewhat concerned, as well as not at all and very. But there is some concern, obviously, as usage growth continues, and that makes sense. So we talked about a milestone. The new milestone of 0.5 terabyte in average usage data knew no bounds as the milestone was reached for both UBB and FRB-based network operators. We talked about some differences between them, but both kinds of plans reach this new milestone. So now, to get into this, to the specifics of this and the implications, here's OpenVault founder and CEO, Mark Trudeau.
Great, thanks, Larry. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for joining here today. I'll just jump right into the details. So we have seen, as you see on the screen here, an 11% increase in average usage when compared to the fourth quarter of 2020. Now, we all know what we've been dealing with here the last couple of years. 2020 had been our highest usage, observed to date, largely due to all the things that Larry was talking about up front around just differences in usage behavior caused by the pandemic and such. So it was really interesting to be able to compare 2021. We had actually forecasted close to 600 gigabytes by the end of 2021. We didn't quite get there, although in a bit here we'll talk about certain categories that got closer to 600 gigabytes per household. But it's just a massive milestone for us to hit. And when you look at just the sheer numbers, you're looking at more than 50 gigabytes per household than we saw at the end of 2020. Now, we did see usage settle back in, and if you look at the chart to the right, you'll see that in the third quarter of 2021, usage had actually dipped below what we saw at the end of 2020, down to 435 gigabytes. And now you're seeing, 100 gigabytes more just in one quarter. So we've picked back up the pace here, and now we're at 536 gigabytes, which is just a massive number. And in a little while here, we'll share with you a bit of a history of how we arrived here and where we started, going back, I think, all the way to 2017. We'll share some of that data. Now, the other thing that those of you that have been on these webinars in the past know we like to do is compare those operators that have kind of the all-you-can-eat plans in place versus those that have usage-based billing. And to just define that really quick, when we say usage-based billing, we're really talking about usage quotas, assigning a quota per speed tier, and charging subscribers when they go over that. And at this point, over half of all broadband subscribers in the country now are on some sort of usage-based billing plan. And you still see a number of operators that have the all-you-can-eat approach, and we call that the flat rate billing subscribers. And what we really want to do is compare usage behavior on those two types of networks. And so if you're looking at flat rate billing, you see the average household usage is closer to that 600 gigabyte level that we had forecasted. It's at 576 versus 510 to 511 or so for the usage-based billing network. So clearly, usage-based billing helps to curtail usage, and this becomes very pronounced when we look at power users. Now, why is this important? Well, if you look at close to a 13% delta there Imagine as an operator that you have 13% less traffic to support, and what that can do for you as an operator, combined with the fact that you're actually driving more revenues and, believe it or not, higher customer satisfaction, which we'll get into in a little bit here. On average, Larry talked about up front, 3 times as much median usage growth on the flat rate billing networks. On the average usage growth is about twice as high for the flat rate billing versus usage-based billing households. Now, again, here we talk about the median usage. Now, median usage, forgetting even about flat rate versus usage-based billing plans, median usage has been growing for a number of years at a faster rate than average usage, which is an indicator that it's usage that's growing across the board, really across all usage segments. All subscribers are growing their usage. So it's not like we just have a few, power users dragging up the average. We're seeing median usage grow at an even faster rate. Yeah, so this just emphasizes that point. We have to pay attention to really all users because everybody's usage behavior, especially the last 2 years, has changed dramatically. And that's an opportunity for operators to take advantage of. Now, we shift gears to power users for a second. And there's actually a really good turnout on this webinar. I think there's a bunch of new people that haven't participated in the past. Those that have know that we used to track as low as 250 gigabytes as a power user back when we started this business over 10 years ago. We don't even report on that anymore. As you see now, our average usage is twice that, more than twice that. So we kind of shifted our definition of power users to those subscribers using greater than 1 terabyte and those subscribers using greater than 2 terabytes. And what we've seen is a massive acceleration here just the last quarter, 50% increase in those subscribers consuming over 1 terabyte just since the end of third quarter 2021, 16.1 versus 10.7% of subscribers in that category. 2 terabyte users and above, the impact there, the growth rate is even higher, with almost double really the observed number of subscribers over 2 terabytes. Just 1 quarter ago, from 1.4 up to 2.7%. So the power usage category is just growing at a tremendous rate, and as you're going to see down the road here in these slides, you're going to see a correlation between some of the faster speeds being offered and that are kind of helping to drive that growth. But now let's just get back for a second to that comparison that we talked about. And this is where the difference between usage behavior of UBB subscribers versus the all-you-can-eat flat rate billing subscribers becomes even more pronounced. So we look at power users, and you can see by the chart that those on UBB plans, there's a much smaller percentage of those subscribers over 1 terabyte and over 2 terabytes than there is on the flat rate billing plans. So this makes perfect sense, right? Subscribers typically will start getting hit with overage fees and things when they get up into those levels of usage. So on usage-based billing plans, so that does help to curtail usage and hold down the number of power users. Now, again, as I talked about a minute ago, this has major impacts. These are the same subscribers that are causing congestion issues and causing problems on the network. And I don't care if it's a fiber or a DOCSIS network, all these networks are shared networks that are heavily impacted by a few subscribers. So anything you can do to help prevent these kind of runaway power users that have negative impacts on everyone else makes a lot of sense. And usage-based billing is one of those programs that can help you do that.
Thank you, Mark. And just recapping some of the things that we talked about, starting with the power users we just talked about. Power users who consume 1 terabyte or more per month represented less than 2% of subscribers in 2017. Today, as you saw, they represent close to 16%, which is an 8 times increase. Huge number. In the last quarter, there were 25% more 2 terabyte power users on flat rate billing based networks than usage-based billing based networks. And the positive impact of going in that direction Mark just talked about. And lastly, median data usage in the last quarter on FRB based networks exceeded usage-based networks by 24%. So clearly there's a benefit, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. But let's get you involved again in our second and final poll question. Mark talked about congestion and capacity issues. So we have a question along those lines for you. Here we go. Get ready. Get your clicker ready. Here we go. Given the fact that usage levels have continued to increase across the board, how interested would you be in a tool that could identify subscribers that have outgrown their current package and are candidates for an upgrade? Now, I will give you a spoiler alert that there is a tool that does this, and perhaps I know a company that offers it. Pretty much everyone here is interested to some degree on this kind of tool and what it can do, which makes sense. And it's going to become more and more important as networks get busy with congestion and capacity issues. So let's get into provision broadband speeds and get into the speed side of it and speed tiers. Back to you, Mark.
All right, thanks, Larry. Yeah, so let's start with just the percentage of subscribers here that would be considered on low bandwidth plans these days. So that would be plans that have less than 50 meg per second downstream speeds. We're now only at about 10% of all subscribers, at least that we track. We're talking millions and millions of subscribers. Only about 10%, less than 10% now, are receiving less than 50 megabits per second speeds. Now, it seems like the sweet spot these days is that 200 to 400 megabits per second speed tier. Many operators that we work with now, even their slowest speed tier might start at 100 megabits per second, as they've upgraded their networks either to DOCSIS 3.0, DOCSIS 3.1, or fiber networks. The lower speeds now are in that 100 to 200 range as a starting speed, and then you go up to 200, 300, etc. And that seems to be the sweet spot where almost a third of subscribers now fall in that 200 to 400 megabits per second category. Now, the highest growth area happens to be the gig service. And most of our customers at this point are offering gig speeds. And now you're seeing about 12% of those subscribers on that speed tier, which has grown nearly 50% year over year. So operators are doing a really good job, I think, of promoting the gig service. One thing we do see, however, is that operators need to be careful about the areas of their network, of their markets where they're offering that and promoting it, I should say, because we've seen some operators promoting gig service on areas that are heavily congested on the network already. So by getting subscribers to move up to gig service, they're never going to receive even close to that gig service, just given the congestion on the network. So it's really important for operators to kind of aggregate all this data together so that marketing and engineering are on the same page as far as where to promote these kinds of services and speeds. So here, what we wanted to look at was, we're talking about a half a terabyte is kind of our threshold these days, and as far as this OVBI report is concerned. And we wanted to look at those subscribers that are over that half a terabyte versus those under, and look at the speeds of each of those categories. So as you can see, subscribers that are using over a half a terabyte, their average downstream speed is pretty much 400 megabits per second. That's the average. If they're using less than a half a terabyte, the average is actually less than half of that at 185 megabits per second. That's on the downstream, and you see what the upstream is there just above that. So again, this is kind of an indication that there's just a clear correlation between speed and usage. And I think our next slide or two here gets into that in a little more detail. So here, what we did was we said, look, let's take all these different speed tiers and show you the average usage, that we're seeing. And this is clear indication that obviously as you move up in speed, usage increases. And there's lots of reasons for this. We've talked about it before. It's not necessarily that usage behavior changes, but you end up serving up higher quality videos, et cetera, when you have faster speeds and available bandwidth. And the result is that it might not seem as a consumer that your usage behavior has changed, but the amount of data you're consuming has changed. And so the faster the speeds out there being offered, the more usage you can expect as an operator, and potentially the more strain on your network. So again, just kind of highlights the need for really doing deep dive analysis on these kinds of things. Now, another thing that we have done is actually looked at each of those speed tiers, what's the usage threshold where we would recommend an upgrade for subscribers, right? And if you're at, let's say, look at the top and you're less than 50 megabits per second, but you're using over 100 gigabytes a month, that's a good indication that you should upgrade to a faster speed tier. Your usage behavior just basically tells us that you need faster speed. So we've done a lot of analysis for our operator customers around this and have identified these thresholds that you see on the screen as things you need to pay attention to. When you see subscribers on these speed tiers that are using above the threshold, they are upgrade candidates. And not only is it going to drive more ARPU for you as an operator, but those subscribers will be happier subscribers. They will get a better experience than they're currently receiving. So really everybody wins if those subscribers can be identified and move up to those faster speeds. Now, the other thing we did is we said, look, let's look at across these different speed tiers, what percentage of subscribers in each of these speed tiers do we deem to be upgrade eligible or that we would recommend as candidates for upgrade? And you see that in the pie chart, the breakdown by speed tier, but when you blend it all together and we look at all subscribers that are currently below that 400 megabits kind of level, we think there are close to a quarter of them that are actually upgrade candidates. So you can imagine as an operator, if you went and you were able to get all of those subscribers to upgrade to faster speed tiers, you're going to have a much happier subscriber base. Your net promoter scores are going to go up and your ARPU is going to go up significantly. And the way to do this is really through the analytics and through really granular look at the usage behavior of all these subscribers. What we started looking at a few quarters ago is what's just the average household look like? And here you see on the screen in the fourth quarter, again, you're looking at that 536 gigabytes per household. You see the breakdown on the left of downstream usage versus upstream. And then you see the average speeds there in the middle. And now we're up to, according to a recent TiVo study, almost 9 streaming services per household. And this includes, everything from the Hulu and Netflix type streaming services to gaming services and whatnot. So 8.8 per household. So this is continues to increase dramatically, and it's streaming, and we all know it's video streaming and such as driving a lot of this traffic. So the more of these over the top services that are adopted, the more cord cutting that occurs. These numbers are just going to continue to rise. So nearly 9 services now being streamed per household. Now, I mentioned a little while ago here, we're going to take a look at a bit of a history. So we went back to 2017, and you see that our usage in the fourth quarter of 2021 is about 2.5 times what we saw, really, I guess, 4 years ago, technically. So, it took us a very short period of time here to more than double usage. Now, if you also pay attention to the curve a little bit, you see the curve spiked up here in 2020. Again, that was largely the impacts of the pandemic. So while the growth rate did seem to slow down in 2021, we're still growing. So I don't think we're ever going back. We're going to continue to see growth, and that's depicted here. I think we can use this kind of analysis to help us forecast where we're going to be, out into the future. Now, another thing, that we've seen, and we've talked about speed tiers and adoption of different speed tiers, et cetera. But over time, we also look at, the usage levels. And if you look at the top, that's a depiction of what's happened to those 0 to 100 gigabyte users. And there's been nearly a 50% decline and you could see what a large percentage it was back in 2017, what a big part of the chart, that they accounted for. Now it's far, far less. And instead, you're seeing a massive increase in the power usage level. It won't be long from now where we'll have to change our definitions again of a power user, but nearly 20 times the subscribers over 2 terabytes today than we saw back in 2017. So some of the conclusions here, and then we have a couple of additional things to share, but, subscribers are, they're demanding more and more bandwidth because of the types of devices, the usage habits. Gaming has become very big, the need for low latency, et cetera. So, it's just, there's a changing usage behavior, and bandwidth demand is at an all-time high. So again, the highlight of really this study, and you're going to see this when the actual report comes out, is to exceed a 0.5 terabyte is something that I think, well, I know, we've looked and looked at a lot of studies over the years, and we looked at Cisco, comes out with their VNI report routinely, and even just a couple of years ago, they had forecasted that we'd be at an average usage per household, I want to say by the end of 2020 or 2021, of about 240 gigabytes. So we're seeing more than double what Cisco had predicted even just a few short years ago. So 0.5 terabyte is a huge milestone, and we're well on our way to get up to that terabyte level here in a few short years. Speeds continue to improve, and as operators have invested in their network, and with those speeds, again, the high correlation between speed and usage, we're seeing just a big uptick in usage. So just really in the last 3 years, usage per household has doubled. So it'll be really interesting to see and track what happens over the coming years as well. Just when we think that things have leveled off, we just continue to see growth. And that's, again, coming back to the type of devices, the number of devices, number of streaming services being selected, the fact that we're still seeing a lot of cord cutting going on, and still a lot of subscribers are still going to cut the cord. I think we've seen a lot of studies of late that show that most subscribers, if they haven't already cut the cord, are considering it. So I think you're going to see a lot of that here in 2022 as well. Again, the type of offerings and the type of products offered in this arena really do impact usage behavior and your ability as an operator kind of manage your network properly. And, usage-based billing, which has been in play for quite some time, Comcast was the first operator to offer it, has proven over time to be a very effective way to control usage. And there's a lot of misnomers about usage-based billing. We've seen it with a lot of operators that have deployed it. Subscribers actually end up happier, and the usage-based billing really ends up impacting just the real power users who exceed their quotas. And what happens is other subscribers end up upgrading to avoid those quotas, et cetera. And with those upgrades come better service for their needs. So we've seen operators that have deployed it. Subscribers aren't happy about it in the beginning, but then within a very short period of time, net promoter scores across the board are much higher than they were pre-deployment. So lots of reasons to consider it, including just controlling those power users and keeping them in check. And really it comes down to tools. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, but you need to, as an operator, be able to not just collect network data, but aggregate it with subscriber data and really pull it together all in one place. And this is going to allow you to better manage your network capacity, your subscriber experiences, and your revenues.
Thank you, Mark. As Mark mentioned, we're going to talk a bit about tools. We mentioned earlier that there are tools and solutions that can help broadband providers improve network performance. Specifically, we talked about identifying upgrade candidates as a way to improve revenue and ARPU. We said overall, there was a percent, I think it was 23% of all users can be upgrade candidates. Now let's take a look at another solution, one that increases or boosts capacity in the network, which can help you get more from your existing investment in your network. Turn it back over to Mark to tell us about this solution.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. So, there are lots of solutions to help you manage capacity. One of the things that we're now offering, particularly on DOCSIS 3.1 networks and above, is what we call our capacity booster. And it has the ability to really manage profiles, modem profiles, et cetera, modulation schemes to ultimately result in more capacity. So you've already invested in expanding to DOCSIS 3.1 if you're a DOCSIS provider. Why not get more capacity out of your network? So if you look at the kind of the green chart, shows the usage really throughout the day and how you reach those peak hours out there from 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. But imagine if you could create more headroom with a solution. So our capacity booster really does just that. So the idea is to, get the most, leverage the most out of your investment in DOCSIS 3.1. Studies have shown that this solution can actually increase capacity up to 40% over your baseline configuration. So if you're doing that, you can imagine, you could avoid node splits, you could avoid a lot of unnecessary expense by implementing this kind of solution, which is very much an automated solution. And it's constantly looking at your network and addressing capacity and congestion issues. So just to stay on areas that we focus on, so everybody on the call here is aware, we focus in 3 main solution category areas. One is network management and optimization. Another is monetization, as you've heard us talk about today. And a third area is really subscriber engagement and experience and things like being able to show subscribers how much data they're consuming, recommend upgrades, et cetera, based on their usage behavior. So you see on the left kind of all the different types of data. That's not even really all the different types of data that we're collecting, but we're collecting it, we're aggregating it, we're enriching it, storing it, and then we have a whole suite of solutions in each of these categories that ultimately address some pretty important use cases for operators, right? So from on the left, we talk about, creating kind of a network to subscriber topology and understanding the impacts that individual subscribers are having on the network. To some of the middle sections there, you talk about identifying what we'll call them the top talkers, upgrade candidates, et cetera, to help you drive more ARPU. And then on the right, helping operators diagnose issues when customers call in, sending notifications when usage thresholds are met, those types of things. So we kind of work in all these areas, all focused 100% on improving your broadband business. So the nice thing about this is that when you have all this data really in one place, it becomes valuable to not just network engineering, but marketing, and finance, and customer care. Every functional group in the organization can take advantage of that trusted source of data. And some of the views we've created, the solutions we've created really address specifically issues in each of these functional areas and challenges that you have as operators. So it's kind of a way really to, instead of dealing with data being in silos and a lot of functional areas not being able to get their hands on certain data, it becomes, again, that trusted single source within the organization. So everybody's working off the same set of data. And it really helps the organization just ultimately run their business better. So everything here is designed really to drive more revenues, reduce your CapEx and OpEx expenditures, because when you know where there's congestion occurring, why there's congestion occurring, for example, you can avoid unnecessary truck rolls and node splits and all these kinds of things. Because in some cases, that's just not going to help the situation. So you really need to quickly diagnose exactly and pinpoint exactly what the issues are. And that's what our solutions are really designed to do, ultimately driving greater profits on the broadband side of your business. So yeah, we've basically been doing this now for over 10 years. And because our focus is 100% broadband, we think we're very unique in the space, and that we've not only been doing this a long time collecting data, but there's a lot of lessons learned when you do it as long as we have. And so we're able to kind of bring those lessons learned and best practices to our customers. So you get kind of the benefit of collective learning, if you will, of all of our years dealing with this. And by the way, every operator is dealing with the same challenges, right? So this is one operator's challenges are the same as another. So we're able to help solve those issues and then share those things with our customer base.
Thank you, Mark. Here is our contact information. Just shoot us a note if these solutions and the analytics that we can provide for you is of interest. Some questions came in, so we'll address those now. Thank you for sending those questions in. Mark, here we go. You talked about network congestion and how operators need to constantly stay on top of capacity issues. But in fiber networks, which inherently have huge capacity, is this really an issue operators need to focus on?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think, I think everybody understands that all of these networks are shared networks, whether it's DOCSIS or fiber, and each network has the potential for choke points, right? Whether that's, with peering links, whether that's, I think one of the most important choke points that we've talked about quite a bit here over the years is the pipe going into the home. There's never been a time, and it doesn't really matter what the access network is, right? Subscriber usage behavior has changed more in the past 2 years than we've ever seen in the past. So those subscribers that, might have subscribed to a certain bandwidth speed, whether they're on a fiber network or DOCSIS, 2 years ago, their needs have changed. And it's really, really important to do the deep dive analysis and be able to understand the subscribers' usage behavior at the household level. Because again, access network, it doesn't really matter what the access network is. If subscribers aren't getting the bandwidth that they need, then it has to be addressed or should be addressed. So these types of solutions, when it comes to analytics, even though fiber choke points might be different than in the DOCSIS world, they still need to pay attention to this stuff because, it all comes down to customer experience and giving customers what they need.
Thank you. The next question is about data collection. You've talked a lot about data collection and leveraging the data available in the network. How should operators be thinking about incorporating data science into their business, given resource and time constraints?
Yeah, well, I think it's absolutely critical that operators take this seriously and leverage, there's a lot of data that's available inside their networks. Those operators that really work hard to leverage that data, extract that data, make that data useful for analysis purposes, can really make better informed decisions and keep their customers happier. And so that's really why we're in business, frankly, is to help operators do that. So if operators need help, it's not just about the collecting of the data, but what we find ourselves doing, because we've been doing this for so long, is we do regular data reviews with our customers, peer-to-peer analysis. So you can see kind of where you stack up as an operator in some key metric areas versus your peers. And that helps you identify, anomalies, et cetera. So we really can help become your analytics department without you having to spend, time and resources on developing a team, et cetera. This is what we do. We live and breathe this stuff. As you can tell by Larry's enthusiasm here. We like what we do, and we're here for you as operators to help you solve that issue.
Thank you. I'm very enthusiastic. I'm enthusiastic to read you the next question. We have 2 more that came in. So here we go. Ramp it up. Going back, this one focuses on DOCSIS networks. Every time we address congestion in our DOCSIS network with expensive node splits, you mentioned node splits earlier, node splits, it seems like the pipe fills back up immediately. How can analytics help us when there seems to be more demand than we can handle?
Well, this is a challenge because, a lot of times you just don't know how much pent-up demand there is on a congested node, for example, right? You see that utilization levels are reaching 100% of available capacity, and you think, okay, well, I'm getting a lot of phone calls from this area of the network. I'm going to need to split that node because, we're dealing with congestion. And it's hurting, and a given node could be 200, 300, 400 subscribers or more that are having issues. So the logical answer, the default answer a lot of times is let's put it in the budget to split that node. And that's, a costly proposition. But it's not until you do the deep dive analytics till you realize that that's not actually the solution. What we see quite often is that a few subscribers can be causing the issue for everybody else. So when you split that node, those few subscribers' usage behavior doesn't change. They're going to end up causing issues again, even though your node is split and you've doubled the capacity. So identifying those subscribers and perhaps running a fiber line to them, getting off of your getting off of the DOCSIS network can be a solution that can help and actually save you money versus doing a node split. So, these are things that this is where the analytics become really, really valuable, because it helps you not only prioritize, node splits and such, but really gives you a smarter, allows you to make a smarter decision on how to rectify the situation. So we hear that a lot, node splits don't really help because the network fills back up. But this is the reason why, is you need to do the granular analytics before you decide to do a node split.
Thank you. Our last question is going back to capacity. Our upstream capacity is a major issue for us, given the increase in upstream usage these past couple of years. How would you address upstream differently than downstream network issues?
Well, that's a question, that is very common these days. Upstream across the board is a challenge, I think, for operators, given the fact that there's just not as much capacity and flexibility on the network to address upstream. And of course, upstream has continued to grow. During the early days of the pandemic, upstream really took off and immediately started causing some challenges for operators. So how to deal with it differently. So one thing that we have seen with upstream when we do the deep dive analytics is that, you heard me mention just a minute ago, a few subscribers can be causing issues for everybody else. In the upstream side of the network, that becomes even more pronounced. What we see is during times of peak congestion, you could have literally one subscriber that's chewing up 80% of the available bandwidth on a node. So when you see that, you have to, as an operator, realize that when there's congestion like that, everybody else on the node is actually effectively being impacted in a negative way. So one of the things we recommend, and we have solutions for operators, is to be aggressive to address that one subscriber or two subscribers that are causing issues. It's better to be aggressive with those subscribers and perhaps adjust their bandwidth or whatever you need to do, because you're going to open up the pipe for everybody else. You're going to make everybody else happier. So it's kind of it's a good scenario to have, the fact that there's a high density of a small amount of usage of users rather causing issues during times of peak upstream congestion, because that means if you're just aggressive with a couple of subscribers, you can have a massively positive impact on the experience of everybody else. So the short answer is be more aggressive, but you have to be very surgical with who you impact and when you impact them. And that's where the real-time analytics and our solution suite becomes really, really valuable. So I hope that answers the question.
I think it does. And that concludes the questions that came in. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Look forward to next quarter when we'll talk about what's happening and see how our crystal ball did. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.